Hi everyone, so for this video guide, I wanted to try something a little different. There will be no narration, but turn on the subtitles if you want to follow the step-by-step process. This video guide will be about making shaker keychains that you can see over here. So sit back and enjoy, and leave a comment or like if you really enjoyed the video. Thank you!